You ever have one of those neighbors who can smell joy and immediately tries to shut it down? Well, buckle up, because this story starts with the loudest, most clipboard-wielding HOA Karen you could ever imagine. And the thing she decided to wage war over wasn't loud, messy, or dangerous. Nope. It was my bright red kayak, peacefully resting beside my garage like a harmless, overgrown rubber duck. But apparently, according to Karen, it was destroying the visual harmony of the neighborhood. Yeah, a kayak. The whole thing kicked off on a sunny Saturday morning. I was tightening a bungee cord on the kayak when I heard the familiar throat clearing. You know the one. The "I'm about to ruin your day" throat clearing. I turned slowly, already bracing myself, and there she stood, Karen, wearing oversized sunglasses, a sun visor big enough to receive satellite signals, and her HOA badge like she was deputized by the universe. "That kayak cannot stay there," she announced. No hello, no explanation. Just pure weaponized entitlement. I asked her what the issue was, genuinely thinking maybe there was some rule I'd overlooked. Instead, she launched into a full speech about community standards, aesthetic consistency, and my supposed willful disregard for HOA expectations. Meanwhile, the kayak was just sitting there like, "Ma'am, I literally float for a living." Trying to be reasonable, I told her I'd double-check the handbook. That set her off even more. Apparently, questioning her was the ultimate act of rebellion. She started pacing, pointing at imaginary violations, and muttering something about setting an example for others. I swear, if she'd had a whistle, she would have blown it at me. At this point, I realized this wasn't about a kayak. Karen needed a battle. She needed a villain. And she chose me and my innocent floating friend. Over the next few days, Karen began what I can only describe as her personal surveillance mission. Whenever I stepped outside, she appeared, watering the same patch of grass or reorganizing her mailbox. It was clear she was waiting for me to slip up and give her another excuse to lecture me daily. But here's where things got interesting. Karen didn't know that I had a long fuse, but a very creative sense of justice once that fuse burned out. And when her daughter started taking selfies with my cows the following week, uninvited, of course, that's when the perfect revenge idea took shape. A manure loader, a timing trick, and a photo bomb for the ages. But before that brilliant moment could unfold, the kayak war escalated in ways I never saw coming. Karen must have spent the entire night flipping through the HOA handbook like it was a courtroom drama, because the next morning I woke up to a bright yellow violation notice taped to my door. And by taped, I mean aggressively plastered, like she wanted the glue to convey her disapproval. The notice claimed my kayak was an unauthorized exterior structure. A structure. As if I'd built a shed out of driftwood and roof shingles. I took a deep breath, peeled the notice off, and walked outside. And there she was, Karen standing in her driveway, arms crossed, nodding to herself proudly, like she'd just solved world hunger by taping paper to my house. "Good morning," I said, giving her every chance to play nice. She adjusted her sunglasses. "You have 72 hours to remove the structure." I stared at the kayak, then at her, wondering if this was real life. "It's a kayak," I reminded her gently. "It is visually disruptive," she replied, enunciating each word like she was teaching a toddler. "Other residents depend on me to maintain order." Order. That was her favorite word. If she could label her coffee mugs with barcodes and inventory numbers, she would. At this point, other neighbors had started noticing what was happening. Some laughed it off, others rolled their eyes. But Karen? She doubled down. She began sending mass emails to the HOA list, reminding everyone of object placement protocols. Meanwhile, she conveniently ignored the inflatable flamingo sitting in her friend's yard 2 houses down. But things really escalated when she took photos. Yes, photos of my kayak from multiple angles, uploading them to the HOA portal with dramatic captions like "unapproved item" and "community risk." A risk to what? I had no idea. Maybe property values, maybe her sanity. Still, I tried to play by the rules. I moved the kayak a few feet, then tucked it behind a bush, then stored it next to the fence. Every time, she showed up with a new complaint. Too visible, too close to the property line, reflective surface causing glare. It was like the kayak had personally wronged her in a past life. But while the kayak drama was unfolding, Karen's daughter had discovered my pasture and my cows. She was a teenager, cheerful, harmless, and obsessed with taking aesthetic farm girl selfies. The problem? She'd hopped the fence without asking. I didn't mind too much until Karen marched into my yard one afternoon demanding I control my livestock for better photo opportunities. That was the moment the revenge plan clicked into place. Simple, harmless, and absolutely poetic. But before the manure loader makes its grand entrance, Karen's daughter, Lily, was everything Karen wasn't. Friendly, respectful, and constantly apologizing for her mom's behavior. She loved animals, especially my cows, and had started coming by almost daily to take light-hearted selfies with them. Honestly, I didn't mind. The cows didn't mind. But Karen definitely minded, just not in the way you'd expect. Instead of being upset her daughter was trespassing, she was upset that my cows weren't photogenic enough for Lily's social media aesthetic. That comment alone could power 1,000 eye rolls. One afternoon, while Lily was once again posing with Daisy, my gentlest cow, Karen stormed into my yard without knocking. She marched right up to me, demanding that I brush the cows, clean their hooves, and prepare them properly for pictures. She said it like she was ordering a glamour team for a celebrity photo shoot. That was the moment I realized two things. One, Karen had entirely lost touch with reality, and two, fate had just handed me the perfect opening for a little poetic justice. See, earlier that day I had been using the manure loader to move a fresh pile to the back field. It was still parked near the barn, and an idea, glorious and harmless, formed immediately. The next day, like clockwork, Lily returned for her selfies. She climbed the fence, waved at me, and headed toward her favorite cow trio. Karen was nowhere in sight, which made this even better. I casually told Lily that the cows looked great today, and that she should get some wide shots from the fence line. That placed her at the perfect angle. Then I hopped onto the manure loader, drove it behind her, and lined up the shot. I didn't dump anything, didn't splash anything. I'm not a monster. I simply raised the loader bucket high into the background, framed perfectly behind Lily's smiling pose. The result? A majestic, unplanned photobomb featuring Lily, 3 confused cows, and a towering bucket of manure looking like it was seconds away from chaos. She didn't notice at the time. She posted the photos later. And that's when the fireworks started. Because Karen saw them, and she absolutely lost it. She marched over to my house the next morning, waving her phone like it was a subpoena, demanding I remove myself and my equipment from her daughter's photographic content. I explained calmly that I hadn't done anything harmful, just stood behind her while doing farm work. Completely true. But Karen didn't want the truth. She wanted control. And that's when she attempted her biggest overreach yet, dragging the entire HOA into the cow selfie situation. And that was her final mistake, right there and then. When Karen marched into the next HOA meeting clutching Lily's cow selfies like they were courtroom evidence, I knew she was about to attempt the HOA equivalent of declaring martial law. The meeting was held in the community clubhouse, fluorescent lighting, folding chairs, and the faint smell of old coffee. Karen sat at the front table like she was the judge, jury, and destiny of the neighborhood. The moment the meeting started, she launched into a dramatic monologue. "We must address the ongoing disruption caused by his kayak," she declared, jabbing a finger in my direction. "And now, his farm machinery is ruining my daughter's online image." There were audible sighs from the audience. Karen had pushed them too far. The HOA president, Mr. Thompson, adjusted his glasses. "Karen, how exactly is a kayak related to your daughter's pictures with livestock?" Karen slammed her phone on the table. "Look, he photobombed her with manure!" Everyone leaned in. The photo glowed on the screen, Lily smiling sweetly, cows behind her, and me in the background sitting proudly atop the towering manure loader. The whole room froze for a beat, then erupted in laughter. Even Mr. Thompson cracked a smile. "Ma'am," he finally said, "there's no rule prohibiting farm equipment on private property, or cows, or manure for that matter." Karen's face went red enough to match my kayak. "And about the kayak," he continued, flipping open a binder. "We reviewed the regulations. A kayak is not considered a structure. It's allowed as long as it's stored neatly." I leaned back, savoring the moment. Karen looked like someone had unplugged her from her own power source. But, it's visually disruptive," she spluttered. A neighbor in the back raised his hand. "Karen, you literally decorated your front lawn with 12 inflatable candy canes last Christmas." Another neighbor chimed in. "And remember the giant Easter bunny that deflated and scared my dog?" The room nodded collectively. Karen's empire was crumbling. Mr. Thompson cleared his throat. "We're issuing no violations. The kayak stays, the cows stay, the manure loader stays. Meeting adjourned." Karen stormed out, muttering about unappreciated leadership. But karma wasn't finished with her yet. The next morning, Lily came by to apologize. Again, but this time she was laughing. Turns out her manure loader selfie had gone viral overnight. Comments ranged from Farmcore Aesthetic Queen to Best Accidental Photobomb of the Year. She loved it. And the best part? She genuinely thanked me for it. As for Karen, she hasn't said a single word about my kayak since. She avoids eye contact, avoids my driveway, and, best of all, avoids enforcing imaginary laws. In the end, all it took was one well-timed photobomb to restore peace and put my kayak back in its rightful place. Enjoying this wild HOA showdown? Hit that subscribe button to catch more crazy neighbor stories and clever revenge antics. Give this video a like if you got a laugh out of the kayak and cow chaos, and drop a comment below. What would you have done if Karen showed up at your door?